All right. As we look, I don't know, maybe we're looking forward to tomorrow. Maybe yes, maybe no. First, first big evaluation. How do you know when you are done looking over materials? It's not going to be the same answer for everybody. How do you know? Okay. So how do you know you're done looking at these materials for your exam tomorrow? Because it wouldn't be the same for everybody. So how do you know? I would expect to see 9 different answers. I would, because that's what would make sense to me. What works for one individual might not work for another. Okay? Some of you are maybe more so visual learners. Maybe some of you want to have that hands-on experience. So maybe that is more beneficial than anything else. I don't know. So only you can answer that. That's what I would think. So, and we said probably listening is probably one of your biggest aspects. That's probably going to help you out the most. Like when we talk about digestion in general, okay, where would that essentially begin? Because there's 2 types. Those 2 types of digestion are what? Mechanical and chemical. So where's that mechanical digestion beginning? Yeah, it's in the mouth. And that, does the tongue do that? Tongue might have a little bit of a, let's say, function in that, but no, it's mainly the teeth. So why, in your estimation, can the tongue, the hard or soft palate, or the tongue, why would they not have much of a part in mechanical digestion? Because what's really happening when we're referring to digestion? Yeah, you're breaking it into smaller pieces. Okay, tongue can't do that. The palate can't do that. It just provides resistance on the top of your mouth. And then there are certain functions of the tongue. Yes, there's taste buds on there, and it kind of provides a little bit of friction. So when it does reach the top of your mouth, that it just doesn't hit and spread around in all directions. Kind of holds that in place. Okay. So what about saliva glands or salivary glands? How many are there? There are 3. Okay. You don't need to know the location, which one's the largest, but it probably would be a good idea to know what are the components of saliva. It's kind of a vague term. When we say spit or saliva, yeah, that's what that is, but there's different components that make that. What would that possibly be?
Water.
That water's the main component. Mucus is another, because it kind of holds things together when you're chewing. So those are 2. And then the final one is, let's see here. I thought I saw someone come in here with a plastic wrapper of things. And that's fine, but what was that plastic wrapper of?
Smarties.
You should put them in your pants, in your Smarty pants. Oh, that was a fun.
Yes.
Smarty pants? No? Oh, okay. So, but there's one other function of that saliva. Yes, there's water. Yes, there's mucus. But let's see here. Yes, definitely today. How is your saliva going to help you with I got potato bar on there. It's not going to help you with ham, but it will help you with the other substance.
Amylase.
Yeah, amylase. It's a type of enzyme that breaks down starches. Okay? Now, is there only one amylase enzyme?
No.
One set of amylase comes from your salivary glands. Then where's another location of amylase? Yes, your pancreas, okay? And what else would the pancreas secrete? Okay, so we've already got pancreatic amylase, we've got insulin, okay, pancreatic lipase, and then there's one more component of the pancreas. Glucagon. Glucagon, yep. It has an effect on glycogen, okay? So just the fact that you can recall that and remember it, that is, some people are better at that. Some people want to write things out. Other people want to see things. Other people want to read them. It's one of them aspects you're going to have to be able to work out between here and when you see this the next time in college. One of the commercials I see for SDSU all the time is, what is it? Seniors, we hear you, and you can come up here and be a jackrabbit. And one of the professors up there that I know teaches the anatomy and physiology is Dr. Peterson. He's the one that has the bald head on there, and yeah, sometimes he gives the lab tours when we go up there. Now he's when you say like really old school and aspects like that, I'm sure he's pretty tough in class, and it should be, right? Because people are taking that class for nursing practices, and it should be hard, okay? And so I always get a kick out of that. Maybe that's just because they got the same leg model that they're showing in that commercial as what we have here. There's probably a little more in depth than what we've got, but that's fine. Okay, so a pancreas, 2 hormones, 2 enzymes. Okay? So when we mention that, the biggest player as far as breaking things down, we would possibly think that it might be the liver. No, the liver just alters and changes enzymes. And it does secrete some, but the pancreas is probably the biggest influencer on breaking things down, okay? Just because it has the lipase, it has the amylase, it has the insulin, it has the glucagon. So it kind of breaks all them components down, okay? And let's see here. What's significant about the gallbladder? Yeah, it stores bile. It doesn't secrete it. And this is one of them aspects. Okay. How many ducts total do you think there are between the gallbladder, the liver, and what empty into the small intestine? That's one of the things you really can't look for that. You're going to have to think back in what we talked about in class. Just tell me.
I have a question. You said it was lipase, amylase, glucagon, what?
Insulin. Okay. You know, I think that's right, because often I think people would just say 4, okay? Because we know, let's start at the top and work down. First of all, we know the gallbladder, let me start again. First of all, we know the bile is produced in the liver, okay? So that means you have actually in a branch that looks like this, I'm not going to try to draw it, okay? So you have a one of this and a one of this that come together. And one is the what and what? Left and right hepatic duct. Those two come down to form the common, nope, you went too far down the road. Common hepatic duct, so now we're up to 3, okay? Now you're going down a little further to where those are going to come in conjunction with the gallbladder and what you had just said, the cystic duct, okay? And then now they all come together in the common bile duct, or just bile duct. So there are 5 of them, okay? Was that just a guess?
I was thinking it out a little bit, yeah.
Okay. And then when we think of the majority of our digestion, yes, it takes place in the small intestine. That is true. but the small intestine is a really long tube, okay? And we know that. It just goes in different curves and bulges and different directions. One of the things we said in class, we never wrote it down. This is where we talked about maybe kind of your listening skills, if you want to call it that. What did we theorize is probably where does the majority of that digestion / absorption take place? That's a little too vague. You want to be a little more specific. Why are you right? Yeah, it's the longest portion of that small intestine. The duodenum is maybe about 5 inches long. Then you go to the end portion of the small intestine, and that is maybe about the same length. So there's probably about 20 feet that goes with that duodenum. It just gets its name because it looks like a J on how it sits in the small intestine. Okay. What about that's held in place by a structure called the omentum? But sometimes what can happen, what if you try to lift something that's way too heavy and you get a lot of stress right in your abdominal area and that omentum ruptures, and now you got your intestines bulging out in a direction that they really should not be doing. Yeah, we call that a hernia. And not only is the hernia bad to have take place, but what is more common that can happen, like we saw with Gretchen in her case on that surgery saved my life. Because what's going to happen, what could possibly happen as that intestine, you know, it's kind of, maybe it's just this tube like this. What happens if that totally does this? Remember, it's open like this. Now it looks like that. Why is that? Obviously, that's going to be bad. Why is that bad? It can't get through. You're going to have toxins start to build up in there because it can't get through, like what you had said, where passing through to where waste products are finally start to being filtered out after the ileum. But what comes after the ileum then? Which is the large intestine, okay? So what's the junction between those two? It's a muscle structure. The ileocecal valve, that's right, okay? So then we already know that the function of the small intestine is, let's say, not just digestion, but absorption. But also absorption also takes place in the large intestine. That's how we get a lot of our water reabsorbed in digestion. The reason we know that is for those of you who have been in here for, I want to make sure my mic is still working. Yep. In here for biology 1 and 2 years ago, it was a segment on Body Story about this photographer. Robert was his name, I think. And he had some chicken that his wife was cooking and maybe wasn't cooked thoroughly enough. So what is possibly the problem with that? It's this bacteria that starts with the letter S, Salmonella. Typically, your digestive system does a pretty good job of making sure that things don't enter in your body the way that they do, because what's the content of the stomach? Really what? Acidic. That's going to dissolve a lot of them bacteria pretty easily, but still some of them are going to make their way through into the small intestine. Now, with that being said, regular contractions in your small intestine and your large intestine is called these types of waves. It's a type of movement through your digestive system. It starts the letter P. Yeah, peristaltic waves, okay? But what happens if those waves are going too fast? Okay, so it's moving through your bowels really, really fast. then you can't reabsorb something. What did we say just a little bit ago that your large intestine reabsorbs? Water. Well, what happens if you have way too much water than what that can hold? And pressure is going to start building up in there, and it's an uncomfortable feeling that we've all had. Okay? So then he has to get home, and poor guy's driving over all these speed bumps. That's not helping. He gets into his house and gets into the bathroom as quick as he can. And I don't know if the wife felt bad for him or not. She was probably laughing. No, she wasn't laughing. But it's that process that, like I said, it's happened to us all, because your body can sometimes not reabsorb that water because those peristaltic waves are just moving way too fast. So once you get that to slow down, then your large intestine can function the way that it should. So then you get rid of that diarrhea. No one likes to talk about it, but everyone's had it's a natural term. Unfortunately, like I said, we've all had to go through that at some point or another. Okay, I'm just trying to think of things that we've talked about in class. Okay, how many protein enzymes are there? Yes.
The peristalsis, is it within the entire alimentary canal or just the intestine?
Entire alimentary canal, but we associate the most with the intestines. Because, as you can see, those peristaltic waves can also go backwards. That's why we say the entire alimentary canal. That's another thing. We've all been there too. And then expulsion of whatever's inside the intestines and stomach. Okay. So then, proteins. How are they broken down? Pepsin is, we said, probably by far the most important dietary protein enzyme. Then the next one must be amylase. Right? Is it amylase? Think about what pepsin does. It breaks down proteins, that's true. But amylase will break down what? Starch, carbohydrates, okay? Well then, if it's pepsin, well then the other one must be bile. That must be the next enzyme that breaks down proteins. You're shaking your head, no, that is correct. So if it doesn't break down proteins, it must break down something else. Yeah, emulsification or breaking down of fats. And then, well, what could the next one possibly be? Well, maybe it's lipase then. Could it be lipase? What do you suppose lipase breaks down? It's in the name that we're actually talking about. Lipids. So what type of composition are lipids? Fats. Yeah. So bile and lipase work together. Amylase and pancreatic amylase work together. Then we've got pepsin. Then there's one lesser known one that does come out of that of the pancreas, but it has to be activated again. Starts with the letter E. It's a lesser known one. It's, say that again? Enterokinase. Yes, that's another enzyme that breaks down proteins. And it's a mechanism that's similar to the pepsin and pepsinogen. It's where trypsin activates the other enzyme, trypsinogen, and then enterokinase is formed. But we just want to know that enterokinase is another enzyme that breaks down proteins. We don't need to know the mechanism. You do need to know the pepsin-pepsinogen mechanism that we did talk about in class. Okay. I think that's a lot of, we can't possibly go everything. That will hopefully give you a pretty good start on what would be expected of you tomorrow. There's a lot of vocabulary on there, okay? I would like to think that, okay, let's say, for instance, well, you've beaten Lake Preston once before. If you did it once before, we should be able to do it again, right? We should. Doesn't necessarily mean that you will. Okay, you've gotten all these terms right once before. Hopefully we can do that again. Okay. All right, that's really all I've got, unless you can think of.
How many questions is the whole test?
50. Yes.
Would you mind reading, like, not reading the test off, but like telling us what vocabulary words are on the test? Or like which things we don't
Well,
do?
you've done it right once before, so we can do it again.
Is it all going to be the same from the?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to include any more than
No.
that?
Oh. Nope. We want to have confidence in what it is that we're doing, because that confidence will carry over into next year. Because I would like to think we're all in here for a reason. We're future nurses, we're future doctors, future surgeons, future chiropractors, future OTs. We have an OT in. That just popped in my head. I'm sorry. Are you an OT? You want to be an OT? Yeah. So, well, not if you keep calling me that. I'm not going to be an OT. Okay? Or a new, short for nurse. I don't know. But one of the things I think, and then surgeon, we know, some of you, would you rather take orders or would you rather give orders? Okay, well, sometimes that happens, but it's just one of those aspects to where you also have to take into, I think you'd ask almost any doctor, any surgeon, the reason that I'm probably pretty good at what I'm doing is because of who I'm working with. It is the nurse. The nurses are probably just as important as the doctors. I think any doctor would agree with that. And and I know this is hard, but it's supposed to be hard because we want you to be successful the next time that you see this content. And I think there's a time that we took that lab tour up at SDSU, and the amount of lab materials that they had set out for their final was probably filled up all of these desks here. And that's what they went over for the entire semester. So we're talking about even just little types of mannequins or diagrams that you would see in different components. So yeah, that's why I say it's tough, but it's meant to be tough. Okay, I don't mean to be gloomy with that, but we just want you to be ready, okay? And typically if we have a positive attitude with working and moving forward, usually good things are going to happen. Nothing's guaranteed, okay? Is there anything else? What? Huh?
Oh yeah, the bonus question.
Well, you're in here. That is a bonus.
Yeah, I would like more bonus. Bonus question here is more.
Does it make your day or what?
Yeah.
Being in here should make your day.
The random trivia makes it, it always makes my day go well.
I hear your questions are so dumb that, no, I've never heard that. Maybe people have thought that before. I don't know. got to be one of the best actors ever. Okay? Can you read this? Because I need to get a new black marker. Okay? One of the best actors ever. So, so that's bonus one. And I think you'd be able to see this one a little better. Bonus two. Okay. Gesundheit. Okay. So that's all I've got. You can stop the recording now. So, all right. Catch up to you next time.